Civilization or Barbarism, an Authentic Anthropology by Dr. Cheikh Anta. Egyptian grammarians and mathematicians. The Egyptian grammarians, who under the 21st dynasty, 1300 BCE, were having their students recopy exercises and literary texts of the ancient empire, 2600 BCE, on Astraka, new conceptual thought, in the most rigorous sense, 2000 years before Aristotle, the creator of logic, of grammar, meaning of formal logic. Similarly, it is impossible to establish a mathematical formula, even through empirical pathways, without having created from the outset a rigorous mathematical logic. Well, the Egyptians are the only inventors of geometry, and Jamblichus tells us that all the theorems of lines, geometry, come from Egypt. Contrary to persistent opinion, the Egyptians always ended their proofs with the expression Mamit Pou equals this one also the same equals CQFD. Consequently, even if the demonstrations were not rigorous, but it was, the desire to prove was already present in the Egyptian mathematician, and that is enough in order for a logical apparatus to be consciously lived. It is therefore by posing the problems in reverse that one can measure the importance of what the Greeks, Pythagoras, and Aristotle, in particular, Plato, Euclides, and others, borrowed from the Egyptian sciences, all the while keeping completely quiet about it. The honest Herodotus also called Pythagoras a vulgar plagiarist of the Egyptians. 1. Can one teach grammar without having created a meta-language, without conceptualizing, without discovering, particularly at the level of syntax, the whole grammatical logic of the language taught? The Egyptians did all that, more than 2,000 years before Aristotle. 2. Can one establish a mathematical formula, even through empirical means, without having invented beforehand a mathematical logic? Yet the Egyptians were the sole inventors of elementary geometry. 3. Can one create an arithmetic, even an elementary one, without consciously relying on a mathematical logic? 4. Can one engage in solving routine mathematical operations, calculating the area, the volume, evaluating numerical quantities, etc., without having radically separated the myth of the number from the concept of the number? Thus, if the two are brought together again, as in the lofty metaphysical speculations of the Egyptian priests, it can only be on symbolic grounds and not as a result of mental confusion. Therefore, as far as the second criterion is concerned, the separation of the myth from the concept, it was fully accomplished in Egypt at the level of the sciences, and often all that Greece did was to take credit for the Egyptian philosophy of the Nile Valley blacks. Such a separation of the myth from the concept equally took place in Black Africa in the realm of everyday life, without its being spoken of as rigorous science. Therefore, it is in the metaphysical domain, that Greece distinguishes itself radically from the others. If we consider the Greek school of idealism, Plato, Aristotle, the Stoics, there appears to be no essential difference with Egypt, because here, too, we are dealing with a barely modified Egyptian thought. Everywhere in the Platonic cosmogony and in Aristotelian metaphysics, myth peacefully coexists with concept. Plato could even be called and rightfully so, Plato the mythologist. But things change radically with the Greek materialistic school. The principles, the laws of natural evolution become intrinsic properties of matter, which no longer necessitate coupling, even symbolically, with any divinity. They are self sufficient. Likewise, any primary cause of a divine nature is rejected. The world was never created by any divinity. Matter has always existed. And we'll pause right here. Continue back with civilization or barbarism. I'm Uriel. Classic.